Hey Joe, how are you doing?
Good, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. One thing I've noticed from my kids during this whole thing is some teachers are very adaptable, very good at Zoom. Others are a disaster. What was kind of your approach to making a connection with your players? You know, having such a short spring and especially the young quarterbacks. What was kind of your approach to connecting and getting these guys to remote learn?
Yeah, there was certainly ample time for us to master the Zoom calls. So, yeah, we were making great progress and great headway through spring ball. I thought, uh, and getting to install the system and getting to know the guys, and then obviously was cut short. But like anything, as a teacher, generally speaking, uh, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, and I think getting to know each kid and kind of learn a little bit about their background, where they're from, their families, all those things, and then you get into the teaching part of it. So you try to take a little bit of each meeting and kind of make it non-football related, usually at the beginning or the end, just to kind of talk about what's going on in their lives and things like that, and then get into the football part. But I think for not being able to be in person for quite some time, that we were able to do a good job building those relationships.
Next question is James Kripia from the Oregonian. And James is giving me problems on the mute, Coach. I apologize. It takes me. There we go.
Eventually, Todd will work this out. Good to see you again, Joe.
Hey, James.
To the offensive line, obviously you have to replace all five. And when we left things off in the spring, you knew you had to replace four. How do you evaluate George Moore or TJ Bass, who, in TJ's case, nobody's seen him in full pads yet in this program. And George, you only got to see him in shells. How do you go about evaluating the position when you haven't seen these players in full pads? It's kind of the biggest thing to do for the offensive line.
Yeah, and first of all, you have utmost confidence in Coach Mirabeau and Coach Cristobal with the offensive line, that you got two of the guys that are, the best in the business of developing them from a mentality and a fundamental and technique and a schematic standpoint. But I think that's going to be the focal point of camp, and the opportunities that we have here starting up, in pads on Monday, is just mixing and matching those guys, giving them all an opportunity to go out there and compete, knowing that we got to replace, all five. So, ultimately we'll have to decide which the starting unit is moving forward. But I think we've got plenty of time for that. And, all the guys will have a chance to put their, best foot forward and state their case for the job.
Next question will be Ashley Young from NBC Sports Northwest.
Hi, Coach. I know it's only day 2 of camp, but what has surprised you the most about this team so far? Whether it's a specific players, personnel group, Cristobal's electric whistle, what has stood out to you?
Yeah, it's kind of been gym class the first 2 days. We've been in, shirts and shorts, no pads. So, some of the physicality part of it is that'll pick up as camp goes on. But I think the thing that's impressed me the most, not only through these first 2 practices, but, throughout our time here when the kids returned, during the time we were away and when we were here in spring ball, is the culture of the program. And these kids are incredibly resilient. They don't make excuses. There's a great singleness of purpose. There's an awesome camaraderie. So there's every reason in the book right now for a team or a program or a player to kind of, find a way to, make an excuse. And I think the culture of this program and our team is what I've been most impressed with so far.
Next question, Max Torres from Scoop Duck.
Oh, I think we got it. Sorry about that. Hey, Coach. One question I'm interested to know here. You're at Mississippi State, had all kinds of playmakers, but now you're at Oregon, which is a totally different roster, totally different talent. What excites you the most about this offense in year one?
I think the thing that excites me the most is the ability to be balanced. It's a system, historically speaking, that we've run, that we've been able to throw it and run it with equal effectiveness. And, the 2 biggest determining factors in the outcome of football games are explosive plays and turnover margin. And I see us possessing the ability to do both very well, run it and throw it. You know what I mean? And if a team's going to crowd the box, have the chance to take it over the top. And, if they're playing deep, we'll be able to run it. And and through 2 practices, we've done a good job protecting the ball. So I think that the number one, the championship teams I've been on and the great teams, the mentality has been dictated by the offensive and defensive lines, and I think that's tremendous here. So I think we're going to be able to win the battles up front. But on top of that, I think we have a bunch of very good playmakers that will allow us to be balanced.
Next question, AJ Jacobson from Rivals.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to talk with you about your offensive philosophy in terms of, you've had such great success with what you've developed and your system. When you come to a place like Oregon or, season to season at any place, how much of it is a system that you're going to run and how much of it is like looking at the personnel and then adapting what you run to who you've got type of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's probably a little bit of a combination of both. And, a lot of it, relates, it's not what we know, it's what the players can execute, and things we talk about. Is it sound? Can we teach it? And can the players execute it, in terms of a general offensive philosophy? And, we've operated this system with a quarterback who can run, and maybe that be his strength. And we've operated with a quarterback who could throw, and maybe running is not his strength. So certainly I think the best part about it is its adaptability and its kind of sophisticated simplicity where, if we have a roster that's leaning more towards being successful running the ball, we've been able to run it and maybe the pass be secondary or vice versa. So I think that we're able to tailor the scheme based on the talent that we have. And I think that's what, makes me, like I said, most excited about it, that we're going to be able to tailor this thing and I think be pretty balanced.
Next question, Matt Preem from 247 Sports.
Hi, Coach. I'm curious, just what are you looking for out of whoever wins the quarterback job? What's going to separate them from the rest of the group? And then with Shuck and Anthony Brown, what's kind of their progression from walkthrough and Zooms and now camp of getting the playbook down and kind of knowing what and why and how?
Yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of objectivity and a little bit of subjectivity to any quarterback battle, having been in one and having been through 22 years of kind of having to choose one. So I think you talk about, completion percentage, touchdown interception ratio, ability to, generate plays, with your feet by design or improvisation, and quite frankly, moving the ball and scoring points. And then there's a little bit of how do they take control of the team? How do the players respond to them? Those certain things where it's a little bit more feel. So I think it'll be a combination of those things. How are they completing the ball? Are they putting points on the board and at the same time making good decisions and protecting the ball? And then, also how the guys rally around them. So there's no exact science to it. And I think both of the guys, you see Tyler obviously sitting behind Justin and learning a lot of good football here in his time. And Anthony, a guy who's played a ton at this level, 50 career touchdown passes, I think close to 5,000 yards. So he's a guy that brings a lot of maturity to the room as well.
Next question is Ryan Thorburn from the Register Guard.
Mute Ryan.
Okay. Joe, Coach McClendon also arrived from the SEC. What's kind of the dynamic between you two starting out together at Oregon? How's that relationship going?
No, it's been fantastic. And I was just thinking about that the other day, that the level of experience and expertise that we have in our offensive staff room, between, you mentioned Coach McClendon has been an SEC coordinator, Bobby Williams has been a head coach, Jim Mastro's called plays, Coach Mirabel's, been with some very, phenomenal offensive lines. So anytime that you have a guy who's been in your chair and done it at a high level, that you're able to bounce ideas off of. And I think that's what's been great from an installation standpoint, that as we've been going through the offense over and over and over again before we've got to camp, that you've got a bunch of guys who've been successful at this level, kind of sharing ideas and getting the thing fine-tuned and kind of refined. So BMAC has been awesome. He's a great teacher. He's a great person. And, to have someone who's called plays in the SEC be in the same room with you, I think that's an incredible positive.
Next up is James from the Oregonian.
Joe, I realize nobody's off season was anything like, no one in the world had an off season like we've had. But for the quarterbacks going forward for this competition, have you ever had anything like, I mean, I know last year you had a grad transfer, but Tommy knew everything in your system,
Yeah.
knew all the terminology. Here, you have a grad transfer who's going to have 4 weeks. You have a returning player who you only had 4 practices with. Have you had anything like this? And is Getsy the only other transfer quarterback you had in your career?
Luke was a transfer from Pitt, and then when I was at Fordham, Michael Niebrick, I had recruited him to UConn, and then he came down and had a stellar career there. Broke almost every Fordham school passing record. So he would Tommy, and then AB would be the fourth. But just the situation. Everything's put in a microwave. It's spread. Everything's got to be sped up. You know what I mean? So 4 practices for Tyler, none for AB in the spring, or the other guys for that matter. And now, there's only so many times, as you mentioned, you can go over it on Zoom, you can put it on the board, and you can talk about the plays. You got to go out there and execute it. So I think we've been very, as a staff, judicious in our installation process, knowing that it's going to be as much about the scheme and the fundamentals and technique as it is the amount of the play, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I think in a shortened down time frame, not just for the quarterbacks, but for the offense and the team in general, we're really going to have to know what we do well very quickly and get a bunch of reps of that before the same game. So I think that's a challenge for the quarterbacks and for the offense in general, that there's only so many practice opportunities, and you got to really kind of trim down what you do to what you're going to do very well, and work it over and over again.
Next question, Eric Scopel from 247 Sports.
Hey, Joe. You guys carry 6 quarterbacks this year. I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Tyler and Anthony. Can you evaluate, I guess, the skill sets of the other 4? And I guess maybe one of them battles for the starting job. But just if that's not the case, what value do they get, or what do you want to see from them this season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is you see a lot of talent and a lot of inexperience. A lot of young guys. Some do things better than others. Some are thrown in a little better. Some are running a little better. Some understand the system a little better. So with Tyler and Anthony getting the the 1s and the 2s reps, we're trying to mix all those guys in with the 3, and like everything in the program, we're just it's about player development. So making sure they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and keep working on their fundamentals and technique, and just making sure we're developing quality depth at the position.
We have time for 2 more questions. We'll go with Jacob Archer from Scoop Duck.
Hey, Coach. So, of course, over your coaching career, you've had the chance to coach a bunch of really, really talented receivers. And just looking at the depth at the receiver position and in that room currently, what's it been like this offseason? Of course, it's been really weird with everything and everything over being Zoom and stuff. What has it been like just trying to evaluate the different players in that room and just kind of seeing how they fit and how ultimately you're going to utilize them come week 1?
Yeah, you get to see them run around when we were doing conditioning. So there's a bit of an evaluation of athletic ability. Not much in terms of walkthroughs aside from, assignment correctness. So I think, with what we saw in spring and building off of that, and then what we're going to do here going through camp, I think there's a bunch of guys who are capable, guys who have made plays at this level, and then some young guys behind them that have an opportunity to, do the same. So, kind of like they just need a ton of repetitions and a ton of opportunities, and just continue to get better as camp moves on.
Last question will be from Kevin Wade of 247 Sports.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. Just curious what your assessment of the tight end position and who's standing out right now through the spring, the summer walkthroughs, and now 2 days into camp.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out is the depth of the position. You go down and, from top to bottom, there's a bunch of guys. And then the system, we want the tight end to play like a receiver when the ball's thrown to them, and like an O-line to them when it's handed off. And I think, you have some guys that, are able to do both of those things well. And just like anything, it's hard for me to make a hard and fast evaluation, since we had 4 practices like 6 months ago, and now we've had 2. So I think once again, a bunch of talent, a bunch of depth at the position, guys with varying skill sets, and we're just going to keep, firing a million reps at them and, evaluating them and, give them an opportunity to prove themselves and help us get better as an offense and a team.